One of the dumb things I did in my 20s was sell off all of my retro gaming collections. Basically, I got rid of my Super Nintendo, N64, GameCube, Xbox, PS2, 360, all those collections I pretty much decimated for usually stupid things like extra money at the time, or even just trading them into newer consoles like the Xbox One and so on and so forth. And over the recent years, as I've had more disposable income, I've been slowly trying to rebuild some of these collections. I've rebuilt a lot of the core 360 games or survival horror games on 360 that I really liked, or the original Xbox even. I've slowly started doing the same for GameCube. And another console that I have an extreme fondness for, that I grew up with and pretty much had some of my most memorable gaming experiences with, was the N64. And so recently I've been taking a look and basically trying to see what sort of deals I can get on getting some of these games. And in this video, I'll go over my first haul of N64 games towards building my collection. So let's take a look. So I want to start off by saying that not all three of these games that I picked up in this haul were actual games that I can tell you I had some huge tie to and played a ton of, but for $32 or so, I think I got some pretty decent games out of this pile, and I'm going to go over them one by one. And I'm going to start with the game that I have the least experience with on this haul, and that's Forsaken 64. So this was actually a game that I remember way back on dial-up internet. You could go on the Nintendo website and you could see like little 20-second, 10-second clips and pictures and those sorts of things. And I remember thinking this game looked unique, the way the movement operated, and the visuals at the time I thought looked really impressive. However, I didn't actually get a chance to play this game. This was something that I saw on my Nintendo powers, and I saw it through the years, but I never actually got to fully play. And so this was only 10 bucks for this game, so I figured, you know what, as I'm rebuilding my collection, I should pick up some games as well that I haven't actually played. And so this is one of those ones that I'm actually excited to pop into the N64 and give a try. The next game on the list is 1080 Snowboarding. Now, this was a game that I rented way back in the Blockbuster days, and me and my buddies actually rented it a couple different times, and it was something that, it was different than a lot of the 3D games I played at the time. So, you know, I was big into Mario Karts and those sorts of things, but playing like a snowboarding game with the N64 pumping out at that time what I thought were crazy visuals, this was a really good game. And this was a game that I'm not going to tell you I invested as much time into it as like a Smash Brothers or a Mario Kart 64, but I did put some time into this, and I did repeatedly rent this game way back when, so I'm excited to revisit this game again with this. Again, it was $12. Sorry, I was a little off of my total math, but it was $12. So for the 12 bucks or so, I think this was actually a really good buy. Now, this was the last of my haul, and this is more of a nostalgia trip, because I played a lot of this game way back. I played a lot of this with buddies on my own, and this was also in an era where wrestling to me was probably the most exciting. And maybe it's my nostalgia, but I was a huge fan of the NWO, and rest in peace to my man Hulk Hogan. But way back when, the WCW NWO Revenge, this was a game that I played this excessively. Some of the stuff you could do in this and the snares, and don't get me wrong, I felt like the mechanics weren't as polished as some of the other wrestling games, but I think that was kind of the charm of wrestling games back then. They all kind of had their own angle, their own thing that made the games feel just exciting, and they had that arcade quality level of fun. And so, you know, playing this with buddies and just playing this generally was something that for me holds a lot of nostalgia. And again, this era of wrestling, the NWO era, to me was probably, for me, my favorite era of wrestling. And fortunately, I don't feel the same way about wrestling overall, but this is something that I'm very excited to revisit. And to me, probably of the three games, the one for this haul that I'm I'm most anxious to pop into the N64 and really revisit. I wager it probably hasn't aged too well, but again, I think that was part of the charm even back then, that it kind of seemed a little janky, but everything worked. So this is kind of my slow start to my N64 rebuild. And these games, I understand they're not Mario 64s or Zeldas, but especially with the NWO WCW Revenge, this is something to me that I'm excited for this, and I'm excited to start to get some more of those games. I am eyeing out trying to find a reasonably priced Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and obviously some of the classics, but I'm also looking at trying to get some games economically and keeping them at a reasonable price point.